Hello and welcome to another edition of Inspirational Stories. My name is Daniel Hill and my guest today is Jo Berry. Hello, Jo.
Hello, Daniel.
Now, I first came across Jo through a video that she did for a TED Talk. Where was that TED Talk, Jo?
It was in Exeter about a year ago now.
Right, okay. And it had got about 31,000 views. We've just had a little talk and it's up to 35,000 views now.
I think so.
And it had been boosted by... I remember you said Stephen Fry had retweeted it.
Tony Hawks, who's a fantastic comedian, he found it, so he tweeted it out, sent it to Stephen Fry, who then tweeted it saying, watch this, this is hope for the world.
Wonderful. I will link that video because it's 10 minutes and I watched it. I actually watched it twice and it was inspirational, and there are many other inspirational people I've had on this show, and Jo perhaps is the most inspirational one. And you will know why if you go and click on that 10-minute video. So, where would you like to start with it? Because this is a big issue on many levels. As a coach, I work with people attempting to overcome issues that you've been working throughout your life, and whether we use NLP, EFT, or just general coaching. Would you say, it's forgiveness for one thing. People can end up being quite angry because of things that other people have done to them. Perhaps Jo's is a particular case because of the nature of it, the sensitivity of it, and because of the act of what could have happened from it. Many people will know in this country, or certainly if you're about my age, I'm nearly 40 now, in 1984 there was an attempt to wipe out Margaret Thatcher, and most of the Conservative Party, it was 1984 Conservative Party conference.
Yes.
What time of year was that? Was that autumn?
That was October the 12th.
Yeah, I thought it was autumn. And I would have only been 10 at that time, but I still do remember it. It was major headlines, obviously. And it claimed the lives of 6 people?
Yeah, 5 people.
5 people, okay. Yeah. And injured?
Many, 56. Yeah.
56. And one of those people who lost their lives was your father?
Yes.
How old were you when that happened? Or were you...
I was just 27.
27. And I believe you were thinking of travelling the world at that point?
I had my rucksack packed, one-way ticket, and I was off. I should have travelled on the 14th of October, right. And it was on the 12th of October that my father was killed. Right. And I cancelled the flight. It just seemed irrelevant to go off travelling. My life had been devastated, and the me that was the free spirit that wanted to travel didn't exist anymore. I felt like really I took on the burden of this is the real world. People get killed. My father's been killed, and it opened me up to a different reality, to one that I had been.
Yeah. And you went to St James's, was it St James's Church in London that you went to, and only a few days after this had happened?
On the Sunday, so 2 days afterwards, yes. I was somebody who believed in meditating before and spent a couple of years in the Himalayas, and actually written an essay on non-violence and the relevance of Gandhi today. Right. So I've been thinking non-violently, but this was completely the unknown. You know, how do I respond to this? We were given no support. No one said to me, whatever you're feeling, you know, it's understandable, and what do you need? Just nothing. But what I did was that I decided to go on a journey of healing and to understand those who'd killed him. And it was the IRA who took responsibility. But I didn't know what that meant. You know, there wasn't like you could Google it. I didn't know anybody who'd been through such a trauma. The violence of losing someone in a terrorist attack. It's deep. It's profound. It's horrendous. And I did not know what to do with the depths of those emotions. But I trusted, and so a journey started. I saw very clearly that if I blamed and made someone the enemy, then I would have stayed as a victim, and I would have lost some of my humanity. Whilst if I somehow took responsibility, took control over how I reacted, then I was going to win. But I didn't know what that meant, and there was no one around to coach me at that time.
And within a few years, is it correct that you'd made your way over to Northern Ireland?
Within a few months.
Within a few months, okay. And where did you go? Where was the first? Who did you go and see?
Well, I first went to do a workshop with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Right.
In Benburn Monastery in South Armagh, and there were people in London who were going there, and they said, "Why don't you come, Joan?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll come." So I went there, and I shared at the end of the workshop what I was feeling. And at those days, I could quite easily talk about forgiveness, but to be honest, I hadn't really got to terms with my anger or rage at that point. Anyway, I shared what I was feeling and thinking, and people said, "Oh, why don't you change your airfare? Why don't you come and stay? Come to my house and I can introduce you to people." So I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So I went back up to Belfast and started meeting people who shared their stories of what it was like to have the British Army living in their street, what it was like to every night be woken up by the banging on the door. I went to safe houses where people could meet. I went to places where my accent was so threatening, I was told not to talk. Really? Because the English were the enemy. I actually spoke to 800 people. They were like born again Christians, and they asked me to speak. And I was really shy in those days. You know, the idea of speaking in front of an audience was just horrendous. But there was just something about the whole thing of just trusting and knowing that step by step I was going to get closer to where I wanted to be.
And where was that?
Well, I think if you'd asked me back in 85, 84, it was about bringing something positive, and it was also about meeting the man who was responsible. Yeah. And that did happen in 2000 after the peace process. I think for the first time ever in 2000 I got invited to a place where I could share my story, and for me sharing stories has been a very powerful way of healing and of moving on. And I started getting in touch with some of the anger and the deep feelings of pain, and I cried a lot and I grieved a lot during that year, and felt amazing to finally be working on the emotional level. It was a long time, I had to wait for that. And there was a cost to that. There was a cost to delaying the emotional journey, definitely. But 2000 was a year of transformation, and I kept on meeting people who said that they knew Patrick McGee, who was the only man who was responsible, who was caught anyway, who was responsible for planting the bomb. And so in a friend's house in Dublin, I met him in November 2000. It was very scary.
And he'd been originally sentenced in 85 for a life sentence?
Several, I think. Yeah.
Several life sentences, yes. So, and he served 15 years of that and was released under the Good Friday Peace Agreement. Is that right?
Yeah.
So exactly. he hadn't long been released when you met him?
No, just over a year. Yeah.
Just over a year, okay.
Yeah.
And Joe's video, that those of you who have not clicked on it yet, and I still encourage you to do so, it was called Disarming with Empathy. So would you like to share with us what it was like meeting him for the first time and what you experienced?
Well, I was very scared. I didn't know what I was going to feel. Like all those years I'd been wanting to not blame and wanting to take responsibility for my emotions, but I didn't know how I'd feel when I was sitting with him, so there was a lot unknown about it. I didn't know what he would say. I didn't even know whether he would turn up. You know, there were a lot of questions about it, and I actually didn't know what would happen next, because it's like I'd been climbing this mountain and the top of it was meeting Patrick McGee, and then I didn't see anything beyond that. So yeah, lots, and the only way that I could calm myself down was to actually think that he was probably more scared than I was, and that sort of helped me in a way. And